Good morning, children. Today we will have a new lesson from your supplementary textbook, chapter number 5. Should wizard hit mummy? So, here is a question as a title that itself shows that we have to answer this question after reading the text. So, should wizard is a magician, hit mummy? Mummy is mother. So, let us see who is the mother under mention and who is the wizard under mention. Okay, so it is written by John Updike. Okay, before we come to the story, let us throw light upon the author. John Updike, American novelist, courtesy to Google and Wikipedia. John Hoyer Updike, that is his full name, was an American novelist, poet, short story writer, art critic, and literary critic. Born 18th March 1932, Reading, Pennsylvania, United States. Died 27 January 2009, Denver, Massachusetts, United States. Children: Elizabeth Updike, Kobla, Miranda Margaret Updike, David Hoyer Updike. And awards received by him: Pulitzer Prize for Fiction, National Book Award for Fiction. So he is known for his writing fictions, right? So that is about the writer. Now we will go in detail with the story. Should wizard hit mummy? So very simple question. So let us connect this question with the story given. So here you can see the picture of a small girl. That is one of the characters in the story. Her name is Jo, J-O, Jo. Okay, J-O is the little girl under mention here, and her father Jack, J-A-C-K, Jack. Okay, the story is apparently a very simple one. Outwardly we feel that the story is very simple, but its simplicity is deceptive. Why? In fact, the story represents a conflict between a child's perspective of the world and the adult's perspective of the world. Two different perspectives, views, the adult's view and the child's view. So it is in contrast. So let us see and how beautifully it is depicted in the story. Generally, children, they will be very inquisitive, and they will not think about the pros and cons of an action, whereas the adults are very much worried about the safety and security of the child. So there will be constant clash between the children and the parents, right? So let us see how this story is depicted. Here is a story about the world view of a little child and the difficult moral questions she raises during the story session with her father. It is just like a storytelling. Here father Jack is of the habit of telling story to his daughter Jo, and that is a mechanism that he has adopted to make Jo asleep. But as when she is growing, when she grows, what happens, it takes time for her to get herself asleep, and she started raising questions, and that really annoyed the father. Okay, so this is what is the introduction about the story, and now let us go in detail. Okay, in the evening and for Saturday naps, means short sleep. Naps stands for short sleep, like today's. Jack told his daughter Jo a story out of his head. Okay, that means out of his head means he will create the story. It is not something that he has learned by heart, but he will create the story for the children. And many parents do the same. This custom began when she was 2. When she was 2 years old, this custom, this practice started. Custom means practice. Naps, short sleep. Was itself now nearly 2 years old, and his head felt empty. Now, the practice has been in fashion for quite some time, and the father now feels that his head is empty, empty of ideas to tell a story. Each new story was a slight variation. So he made a slight variation, change of the basic tale, a small creature. Okay, every time there will be a small creature. Okay, usually named as Roger. Roger is the common name, like Roger fish, Roger's elephant, Roger squirrel, Roger chipmunk, etc. Had some problems. So next thing is, all these creatures will have some problem, and went to the wise old owl. There is an owl. Okay, the owl will settle the problem, and suppose the owl couldn't settle the matter, the owl told him to go to the wizard, the magician, and the magician would perform his magic spell and solve the problem, demanding some payment. Okay, payment means cash, a number of pennies greater than the number that Roger creature had. All the time that Roger creature would have some shortage of money, and the wizard would ask for more money, and the money would be available where? Near a well, let us see. But in the same breath, directing the animal to place where the extra pennies could be found. Then Roger was so happy, he played many games with other creatures and went home to his mother just in the time to hear the train whistle that brought his daddy home from Boston. So dear children, this is the style of telling stories by Jack to his daughter Jo. So what is the common style? It is all about a small creature. Once again we will repeat. It will be about a small creature. Okay, the creature name will be Roger. Basic name is Roger. It can be Roger monkey, it can be Roger fish, etc. And all the creature will have some problem. Okay, and that problem will be referred to a wise owl, and wise owl cannot settle it. Then he will suggest to the wizard. Wizard will perform his magic spell, will solve the problem, but will ask for money, and Roger's comes will have less money always. So he will go to find it, and that will the end of the story, and the Roger will go back to the home. By then his father would come from the train or whatever, and they will enjoy the day. So this is the way a father tells story to his daughter. Okay, shall we continue? And Jack described their supper, and the story was over, and that supper will be given and the story would be over. Working his way through this scheme was especially fatiguing, means tiring. Okay, tiring. Fatiguing means tiring, means he will become very tired on Saturday, because Jo never fell asleep in naps anymore. Nowadays she stopped sleeping in naps, that means in afternoon naps. And knowing this made the rite seem futile. That means this practice, the religious ceremony. You can write down, rite means religious ceremony. Futile means fruitless. There is no result or in vain. So nowadays the girl stopped sleeping. So the attempt from the parent side, especially father who was telling story, he felt very bad. The little girl, next let us continue. The little girl, not so little anymore, the bumps her feet made under the covers were halfway down the bed. their big double bed that they let her be in for naps, and when she was sick. There was a big bed, and she would be allowed to lie down on it. Had at last arranged herself, and from the way her fat face deep in the pillow shone in the sunlight sifting through the drawn shades. Actually, the writer wanted to say that sunlight is entering to the bedroom, and this girl would keep her face deep into the pillow. And it did not seem fantastic that some magic would occur, and she would take her nap like an infant of two. Her brother Bobby, one more character is surfacing here, Bobby. Bobby is her young brother who was now two and already asleep with a bottle. He would sleep with a bottle of milk attached to his mouth, and Jack asked, who shall the story be about today? Then the father will ask her, what story should he tell her that day? Okay, so far we have come across three characters: father Jack, daughter Joe, and Bobby, her brother. Okay, fine. And the father asked, what story should he tell? Then Joe excused her eyes. Small children, out of curiosity, they will accuse their eyes shut and smile to the smile to be thinking she was thinking. Her eyes opened. Her mother's blue skunk, she said firmly. So immediately she said skunk. So here, children, what is a skunk? Write down, all of you write down. A skunk is a North American animal that can send out a strong, unpleasant smell as a defense when attacked. Okay, it's a small animal. It can pass an unwanted smell, gas. Why? That is a defense mechanism when somebody attacks. Okay, it has a strong, unpleasant smell. So that is actually a defense system for that animal, so that other animals would not touch him. Okay, so she wanted to listen a story of skunk. She said firmly, strongly, a new animal. They must talk about skunks at nursery school. So father understood. Somebody might have told stories about introduce this animal at nursery. Having a fresh hero momentarily stirred Jack to creative enthusiasm. So father has come to that creative style. All right, he said, once upon a time, in the deep dark woods forest, there was a tiny little creature by the name of Roger Skunk, and he smelled very bad. I told you already, this animal will have a foul smell, very unpleasant smell. That is a defense mechanism when other wild animals attacks him. Yes, Joe said. He smelled so bad that none of the other little woodland creatures would play with him. So his smell was very bad, so other woodland creatures would not play with him. Joe looked at him solemnly. She hadn't foreseen this. She did not expect that this skunk would have this problem. Whenever he would go out to play, Jack continued with the zest. Okay, remembering certain humiliation of his own childhood. This is very important, children. Actually, when he was a small boy, he had this humiliation, insults. Other children might not have allowed him to play. So his own childhood days are reflected. He is adding this humiliation in the form of a story of that skunk. Okay, so autobiographical element is there. All of the other tiny animals would cry, "Ooh, oh, here comes Roger Stingy." Skunk, stingy means smelling bad. And they would run away, and Roger Skunk would stand there all alone, and two little round tears would fall from his eyes. Okay, and when other creatures ran away, what happened to skunk? Skunk began to cry. The corners of Joe's mouth dropped down. And Joe, after listening to the story, her mouth and jaw came down, dropped down, because she was very much glued to the story, and her lower lip bent towards as he traced with a finger along the side of her nose the course of one of Roger Skunk's tears. And she too felt like crying, because she was supporting other small creatures, because that is child's perspective. She would be supporting other small creatures. Won't he see the owl? She immediately asked, why can't he go to the owl? She asked in a high and faintly roughened voice. Okay, she is now growing, so she has reasoned it. Why can't the animal go to the owl? Sitting on the bed beside her, Jack felt the covers tug as her legs switched tensely. He was pleased with this, because the girl was making some movement with her leg under the blanket. So that was a symptom that she was going to sleep. So who was happy for that? Father was happy for that. He was telling her something true, something she must know. Actually, what he was telling her, something true, something that she should learn. And had no wish to hurry on, but downstairs a chair scraped. And actually the father and daughter was in the upstairs, and downstairs what is the sound coming? A chair scraping sound is coming, and he realized he must get down to help Claire. And the fourth character is introduced, Claire, wife of Jack. Wife of Jack, mother of Joe. Paint the living room woodwork. She was doing some little painting work downstairs. Okay. Well, he walked along very sadly and came to a very big tree, and in the tip top of the tree was an enormous white old owl. Okay, the father said, yes, that creature finally reached that owl. Where was the owl? In the deep forest, on a big tree, on the tip top of the tree. Very enormous. Enormous means very big. You can see the picture here. Picture of an owl. Good, Mr. Owl, Roger Skunk said. All the other little animals run away from me because I smell so bad. So he presented his problem. What was the problem? Other animals are not playing with him. So you do. The owl said, yes, it is a fact. Nobody will play with you. Very, very bad. What can I do? Roger Skunk said, and he cried very hard. And what can I do? Then he started crying. The wizard, the owl could not solve. So the owl said, okay, you go to the wizard. Okay, not like that. The Joe is telling, okay, now this owl cannot solve the matter. Now take him to the wizard. And sat right up. She started sitting on the bed now. And a little golden book spilled from the bed. There was a book that spilled from the bed. Now, Joe, Daddy is telling the story. Do you want to tell story, Daddy, the story? And father got irritated for that, and she is telling. Father is telling, whether you have to tell me the story or I have to tell story to you. No, you me. Then lie down and be sleepy. In that case, you lie down and be sleepy. Get ready for your sleep. Her head relapsed onto the pillow, and she said, out of your head. Come, yes, out of your head. Let it come out of, the stuff should come from your head. Well, the owl thought and thought. At last he said, why don't you go to see the wizard, Daddy? Then girl asking, Daddy, what are magic smell? Here is a reasonable question the girl is asking now. Earlier she would listen then sleep. Now she started asking questions. What is the question? Are magic spells real? Because wizard will have magic spell. This was a new phase. Just this last month, really a reality phase. When he told her spiders eat bugs, she turned to her mother and asked, do they really? If father says something, she will go to her mother and ask, do they really? And when Clara told her God was in the sky and all around them, she turned to her father and insisted with a sly, shy yet eager smile, is he really? So when father says something, she will go to mother to clarify. When mother says something, she will go to father for clarification, right? They are real in stories, Jack answered curtly. Quickly he said, yes, it is real in stories. She had made him miss a beat in the narrative. The owl said, go through the dark woods under the apple trees into the swamp over the creek. So the owl said, okay, you go through the dark wood, okay, there would be apple trees, and into the swamp. Swamp is wet area. Swamp, wet area. Right? Into the swamp. Over the creek. Creek is a small, narrow stream. Creek. What is a creek? The girl asked, what is a creek? A little river, a small river over the creek, and there will be the wizard's house, and that is the way Roger Skunk went, and pretty soon he came to the little white house. What is the house? The house of the wizard, white house, and he rapped on the door. What is rapped? Knocked on the door. Jack rapped on the window sill, and father, to give musical quality or background music, he tapped the window sill. Okay, under the covers, Joe's tall figure clenched in an infantile thrill, and the girl is in an infantile thrill. Okay, what is infantile thrill means? Like a childish way thrilled. Infantile thrill. Infant, small child. And then a tiny little old man came out, and wizard is an old man. You can see in the picture, it is there, with a long white beard and a pointed blue hat. Physical appearance, white beard, blue hat. Said, oh, what's the matter? You smell awful. The wizard's voice was one of the Jack's own favorite effects. Underline. Once in a while, CBS asked this question: whose effect that would make it as his favorite one? The wizard's voice was one of Jack's own favorite effect. He did it by scrunching. What is that? Yeah, scrunching up his face. He will twist his face and somehow whining. What is whining? Crying. Whining through his eyes. Which felt for the interval roomy, and he would cry like through his eyes, and what is that? Interval roomy eyes, something, that yellow substance coming to your eyes on the corner. He felt being an old man suited him. So the actually wizard is an old man. The father would imitate the wizard. That is his favorite style. I know it, Roger Skunk said. Roger said, I know it. And all the little animals run away from me. The enormous wise owl said, you could help me. Actually, he is now narrating the story, why he is there. Because of the instruction of the owl, he came there. Oh, well, maybe, come on in, don't get too close, but you keep a distance. What does it mean? Because he is smelling very bad. So you keep a distance, not because of corona. Corona social distance is not there, but because of this, what you call, the smell, the bad smell, the stinky smell. Okay, so we keep a distance. Now inside Joe, there were all these magic things all jumped together in a big dusty heap, and Roger animal could see everything in a disorder there, all jumbled, mixed together in a big dusty heap, because the wizard did not have any cleaning lady. Why? Father is telling, actually everything is dumped there, everything is in a jumble, so no cleaning lady is there. Then a girl asking why? Why? Because he was a wizard and a very old man. Will he die? The girl asked. The small girl is asking, will he die? No, wizards don't die. Well, he rummaged. What is rummaged? Searched around. Rummaged, okay, write down. Rummaged, searched around and found an old stick called magic wand. he has a magic wand, and asked Roger Skunk what he wanted to smell like. Okay, I can remove your smell. What smell do you want? Roger thought and thought and thought and said, roses. What smell did he want? Roses. Yes, good, Joe said smugly. Smugly means happily. Jack fixed her with a trance-like gaze and chanted in the wizard's elderly, irritable voice. So Jack father is ready with that style of that wizard. Okay, that irritable style, the trance-like gaze, as if you are mesmerized. Look, actually his face will be like that of a wizard now. Abracadabra, hocus poo, Roger Skunk, how do you do? Rossis, bossis, pull an ear. Roger Skunk, you never fear bingo. Okay, so he paused as a rapt expression widened out from his daughter's nostrils. See, when he narrated, when he made the voice of that wizard, the daughter's nostrils widened. That means she became very inquisitive, forcing her eyebrows up and her lower lip down in a wide, noiseless grin. And she is smiling, noiseless grinning like a monkey, an expression in which Jack was startled to recognize his wife feigning pleasure at the cocktail parties. Now he is adding his own personal elements in the story. Now he can see his wife's face through the daughter's face. Okay, and all of a sudden he whispered, the hall inside of the wizard's house was full of the smell of roses, roses. Roger Fish cried, and the wizard said, very cranky, that's all. Pay 7 pennies. And immediately the smell changed, and the smell became roses now. And he said, Roger Fish cried. You see, he by mistake he said Roger Fish. Actually, it should be Roger Skunk. But the girl, you see how listenful she is. Daddy, what? Roger Skunk, you said Roger Fish. See, the girl noticed the mistake done by the father. That means she is growing now. She is reasoning. Yes, Skunk, sorry, my dear child. Skunk, you said Roger Fish. I wasn't that silly. The girl is telling, it is silly from your side that you said Roger Fish. Very silly of your stupid old daddy. Where was I? Well, you know about the pennies? Say it. Now the money should be paid. Say it. Okay, Roger Skunk said. But all I have is 4 pennies. In his hand only 4. And he began to cry. I don't have money to give you. Joss made the crying face again. The daughter is showing the crying face again, but this time without a trace of sincerity. This annoyed Jack. Actually, this time the crying is not genuine. Who noticed it? Father noticed it. So this annoyed Jack. Downstairs some more furniture rumbled. Actually, he could listen. He could hear the furniture sound rumbled. Claire shouldn't move heavy things. Actually, she was 6 months pregnant. It would be their 3rd child. 3rd child is in the process. Okay, so children, we will stop here for the day. And now that the smell of the skunk is changed into roses, and who is very happy now? The skunk is very happy. Not only skunk is happy, the girl also happy, because with the girl's perspective, that small animal is saved. So before we wind up for the day, let us make an immediate review of what we have already discussed. So I think today we went little extra. Doesn't matter, this is a story. I told you the surface level, it looks very funny and easy, but it has a different understanding. That means the adult's perspective versus the child's perspective. And if we have 4 characters, one is Jack the father, Joe the daughter, and Bobby the little boy, and Claire his wife, right? And the usual story, the story about a Roger animal, it can be a Roger fish or Roger squirrel, so goes. It will have a problem. That problem will be referred to an owl, an old owl. When owl could not do, it would be passed on to the wizard, and wizard would finally would solve the problem and would demand some payment, and all the creatures would be running short of money, and they would be advised to bring it from a particular place. So that particular day the girl was asked which story the father should start with. The girl immediately said skunk. A skunk is an North American animal which was giving an unpleasant smell as a part of its defense, right? But because of that reason, other animals would never allow him to play and play with. So finally the matter was taken to the owl. Owl suggested that it could not do the thing, and it was passed on to the wizard, and wizard, using the magic wand, changed his smell to roses. So dear children, we will continue with the lesson tomorrow. Till then, what you have to do is make a thorough reading of the text, because line by line explanation is very much required, because from any nook and corner CBSE can ask a question. So dear children, have a nice day ahead. With this we conclude for the day. Thank you.